Today, we're going to unpack a really fascinating and honestly pretty powerful document. It shines a light on this growing gap in modern China, a gap between the official language the state uses and the raw, cynical slang that's just bubbling up from people online. It's a story told through words, and believe me, it is a powerful one.
And boom, right off the bat, this slide gets to the heart of the whole thing. On the left, you've got Renmin, the people. I mean, it's the heroic term right there in the country's official name, the People's Republic of China. It's just loaded with this sense of revolutionary glory. But then you look to the right and you see Jutsai, which means leeks. Yeah, the vegetable. So how on earth did a word for a common vegetable become a stand-in for the people?
Well, it's all about the plant itself, right? Leeks are super resilient. You can cut them and they grow back, ready to be cut all over again. As a slang term, it paints this really bleak picture. It suggests a population that's seen as, a renewable, harvestable resource for the powerful, whether that's the stock market, the real estate industry, or the state itself. The source we're digging into today argues this feeling didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It was really forged in these huge moments of national crisis and disillusionment.
And the first place our source points to is this pivotal, tragic event, the catastrophic 2008 Wenchuan earthquake. It was a moment of just immense tragedy, but also, according to this document, it was a critical test of the government's promise to serve the people.
So this timeline here really frames the official response against what rescuers call the golden 72 hours. That is the absolutely critical window for finding survivors. But the source alleges that as this window was slamming shut, the military presence at the epicenter was, frankly, shockingly small. This created a story, a narrative that the official response in the moments that mattered most was just too slow.
The document we're looking at highlights this alleged quote from the premier at the time, Wen Jiabao. It was supposedly said in a moment of just extreme frustration over those delayed troop movements. Now, whether it's true or not, the fact that it's spread like wildfire tells you everything. It captures this sense of helplessness at the very top and a real disconnect between what the state was ordering and its ability to actually act quickly for its people.
Okay, let's move to the next section of the source and see how this idea builds. Here, the document puts two very, very different kinds of stories side by side to really explore these themes of power and what's valued in society.
This phrase, wow, it became a viral sensation in China, but for all the worst reasons. The source presents it as a real landmark moment. You have a young man right after a fatal accident, and instead of showing any remorse, he just invokes his father's power. For so many people, this phrase just perfectly captured a culture of impunity for the well-connected, a feeling that what really mattered wasn't justice, but your status.
And if you thought that was just a one-off story, the source then hits you with some hard numbers. It lists several high-level officials and the absolutely staggering amounts of money involved in their corruption cases. We're talking hundreds of millions of yuan here. Just try to keep these massive figures in your head as we go to the next slide.
21.5 kilograms. That's about 47 pounds. What on earth could this number possibly represent?
The document then tells the tragic story of Zhu Huahua. Just to save a couple of yuan a day for her brother's medical treatment, she lived on almost nothing for years, until her body just gave out. The comparison is jarring, and it's completely intentional. On one hand, you have officials with hundreds of millions in bribes. On the other, a young woman who died weighing 21.5 kilos, just trying to save her family. It's this contrast, the source argues, that fuels a really deep public cynicism.
So you can start to see how these experiences, from the earthquake response to these stories of corruption, created this fertile ground for an even darker, even more desperate vocabulary to emerge. The language, it evolved beyond just being called leeks. And this is it, Renquang, or human mind. Now think about this. If leeks are a renewable resource that grows back, a mine is finite. You exploit it until it's completely exhausted, and then you just abandon it. The source presents this term as the ultimate expression of despair, the idea that a person's life is just a collection of assets to be extracted for the benefit of the system, from cradle to grave. And this feeling, the source claims, eventually moved from just being slang online to actual action in the streets. It lists slogans from various protests over the last few years. You can see the escalation. It starts with a simple, basic demand, wanna eat, and it grows into these direct political challenges and then into statements of just profound hopelessness, like that now famous phrase, "We are the last generation."
So, how does the document tie all of this together? Well, it brings us right back to the beginning, back to that fundamental clash of words and worlds.
And here's the final powerful argument the source makes.
It says that the cynical term human mind is what the glorious term the people now feels like to a growing number of citizens. It represents this complete transformation of an identity, from being a participant in a national project to being just a resource for it.
And that leaves us with this final question to think about. The document we've walked through today argues that this divergence tells a pretty clear story of broken promises and really deep-seated disillusionment. It suggests that maybe, just maybe, the most honest story of a society isn't found in its official announcements, but in the dark, creative, and often painful slang its people invent just to describe their own lives.